All right, we're back with legendary investor Jim Rogers. Jim, before the break, you said that Myanmar was the new big opportunity as far as Asia is concerned. What do you think of South America's equivalent?
By the way, North Korea is also a great opportunity in Asia. South Korea, in South America, well, I would say Colombia, although it's not nearly as depressed. Uruguay, I would say Uruguay and Colombia.
Why those two countries in particular?
Well, both have a lot of natural resources. Uruguay has a much more independent and stable situation, and Colombia's been through a 30-year civil war. Yeah, civil war, I guess you have to call it that. And it looks as though it's finally coming to an end. And it's got everything. It's got all the natural resources in the world.
And you're happy with the government of Santos in Colombia? You think they're managing things relatively well?
After 30 years of civil war, anybody would be better. It's like Angola. I'm bullish on Angola in Africa. They went through a horrible 35-year civil war. After war, if you find a country after war, things are very cheap and they're going to get better.
As you say, you can only carry on going down so far. Eventually, things have to start coming up. Now, we know that you say if you want to get rich, you should be investing in farmland and agriculture. You're big on that. Latin America, rich in commodities and farmlands. So where specifically, if you want to channel that, should you be looking at in Latin America?
The problem with Latin America is most of the governments have sort of gone in the wrong direction. I find much better governments in Asia than I do in Latin America. Latin America has a long history of doing the right thing, and then they elect people who do the wrong thing. It's really be an interesting study to figure out why they do it, because they constantly elect people that you wouldn't want to give your money to. I wouldn't want to give my money to.
Well, sometimes democracy is not always as it seems, Jim. You know that. Now, while you're mentioning Asia, China's relationship with South America has been growing very fast. How and why do you see this relationship evolving?
Well, because China needs natural resources. China sees what I see. There are going to be huge shortages of natural resources. China's going around Africa, South America, Asia, buying up as many natural resources as they can. They're being great capitalists. They're doing what we in America should be doing, but they're doing it in advance.
Let's take it back home a little bit. The IMF saying last week South America would be one of the hardest hit if the U.S. fails to avoid that fiscal cliff. What is going on here in the U.S., Jim?
Well, there's going to be a recession in the U.S. in the next couple of years. We've had recessions every 4 to 6 years since the beginning of the Republic, Michelle. It's coming around again. There's always a reason. I don't know why the next one's coming, but I know it's coming, and that's going to affect everybody. The next one is going to be worse than the last one because the debt is so much higher.
So what should be done? We know you're calling Ben Bernanke the tooth fairy in the past. You're not a fan of his. Romney's saying he'd get rid of him. What would your prescription be?
My prescription would be that when people fail, let them go bankrupt. Stop propping up everybody in sight. That's just going to delay the inevitable. And I would cut spending. I would cut spending with a chainsaw. It's just, America's the largest debtor nation in the history of the world now, and the debts are going through the roof. This is not going to last. This is going to end very, very badly, Michelle.
You've said that the U.S. is looking very much like Japan in terms of having a lost decade, more than 2 lost decades. Cutting spending, easier said than done, Jim. What would you cut? Tell me now, where would you begin the cutting?
We have America, we have troops in over 120 countries. I would get them all home.
Doesn't that threaten our security, our international international security?
Most of those troops are making enemies, not the troops making enemies, but their presence is making enemies in most of these countries. Why do you think there's so much anti-Americanism in the world? Because American troops are, why are we occupying Japan? We still occupied you. You know how long ago the Second World War ended? That was 57 years ago, and we're still occupying Germany.
So you're cutting military spending. All right, that's a fraction. What's next? What's going next?
I would cut military spending so much that you wouldn't be able to see anymore. Then I would cut all the welfare, all the transfer payments. We have huge transfer payments in America. They're wonderful if you get them, but they're not doing any good for the future productivity or future competitiveness of America. No, we spend more on education than anybody in the world by 4 or 5 times. Our kids don't even finish in the top 20 or 30 on the international tests. We got to change things in America, or we're going to continue to go down the tubes.